Hello, it is me, it is Salty. Hello, friends, hello, VOD watchers. I hope you're all well. I am reasonably well. So, yeah, it's another week, it's another me, and we're back, and I am reading Grass for His Pillow again tonight. There we go. Hope everyone's having a lovely Pride month. I'm enjoying winter time in Queensland. That's very nice. Let me just check. What am I checking? Oh no. I have forgotten. I was going to do something. What was I going to do? I don't know. It's gone. Let's have a sip. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Anyway. I don't think I have anything particularly fun to talk about. Yeah. Anyway. Let's just read. So, where did we get up to last week? It feels like ages since my last stream. I should stream more often. Oh, that's right. I was in the middle of a large chapter because I had a raid last Wednesday. Well, I didn't want to end the stream. So I started a long chapter. It was from Takeo's point of view. He was being trained in a remote village, away from the 3 countries, I believe, or nearby. Somewhere where the local lord was sympathetic to the tribe. And during this time, Takeo was, he sort of pined for Kade. He started finding comfort with Yuki, who is, I've forgotten his name now, one of the patriarchs of the tribe who was friends with Shigeru. What's his name? Muto Kenji, that was it. Yes. His daughter, Yuki. So we're like, oh yeah, okay. So let's have a look. Ah, that's right. So he'd been training with the tribe, having a bit of the old browse with Yuki, and she was about to bring him some news. So, okay, so we were halfway through the chapter. It was cold in the room, and already growing dark, with all the threat of the winter to come. I shivered, full of remorse and regret. My hands were numb with cold. He was thinking about Kade. I could hear Yuki's footsteps approaching from the back of the building. I started writing again. She crossed the courtyard and stepped out of her sandals onto the veranda of the records room. I could smell burning charcoal. She had brought a small brazier, which she placed on the floor next to me. You look cold, she said. Shall I bring tea? Later, maybe. I laid down the brush and held my hands out to the warmth. She took them and rubbed them between her own. "I'll close the shutters," she said. "Then you'll have to bring a lamp. I can't see to write." She laughed quietly. The wooden shutters slid into place, one after another. The room went dim, lit only by the faint glow of the charcoal. When Yuki came back to me, she had already loosened her robe. Ayo. Soon we were both warm. But after the act of love, as wonderful as ever, my unease returned. Keide's spirit had been in the room with me. Was I causing her anguish and arousing her jealousy and spite? Curled against me, the heat radiating from her, Yuki said, "A message came from your cousin." "Which cousin?" I had dozens of them now. "Muto Shizuka." I eased myself away from Yuki so she would not hear the quickened beating of my heart. What did she say? "Lady Shirakawa is dying. Shizuka said she feared the end was very near." Yuki added in her indolent, sated voice, "Poor thing." She was glowing with life and pleasure, but the only thing I was aware of in the room was Keide, her frailty, her intensity, her supernatural beauty. I called out to her in my soul, "You cannot die. I must see you again. I will come for you. Don't die before I see you again." Her spirit gazed on me, her eyes dark with reproach and sorrow. Yuki turned and looked up at me, surprised by my silence. "Shizuka thought you should know. Was there something between you? My father hinted as much, but he said it was just green love. He said everyone who saw her became infatuated with her." I did not answer. Yuki sat up, pulling her robe around her. "It was more than that, wasn't it? You loved her." She seized my hands and turned me to face her. "You loved her," she repeated, the jealousy beginning to show in her voice. "Is it over?" "It will never be over," I said. "Even if she dies, I can never stop loving her." Now that it was too late to tell Keide, I knew that it was true. "That part of your life is finished," Yuki said quietly, but fiercely. "All of it. Forget her. You'll never see her again." Damn. I could hear anger. I could hear the anger and frustration in her voice. "I would never have told you if you had not mentioned her." I pulled my hands away from her and dressed again. The warmth had gone from me as swiftly as it had come. The brazier was cooling. "Bring some more charcoal," I told Yuki, "and lamps. I must finish the work." "Hi, Uncle Maui, how you doing?" "Takeo," she began, and then broke off abruptly. "I'll send the maid," she said, getting to her feet. She touched the back of my neck as she left, but I made no response. Physically, we had been deeply involved. Her hands had massaged me and struck me in punishment. We had killed side by side. We had made love. But she had barely brushed the surface of my heart, and in that moment we both knew it. I made no sign of my grief, but I wept inwardly for Kaede, and for the life that we might have had together. No further word came from Shizuka, though I never stopped listening for messengers. Yuki did not mention the subject again. I could not believe Kaede was dead, and in the daytime I clung to that belief, but the nights were different. The last of the colour faded as leaves fell from maple and willow. Strings of wild geese flew southwards across the sullen sky. Messengers became less frequent as the town began to close down for the winter. But they still came from time to time, bringing news of tribe activities and of the fighting in the 3 countries, and always bringing new orders for our trade. For that was how we described our work of spying and killing. Trade, with human lives measured out as so many units. I copied records of these too, often sitting till late into the night with Gosaburo, the merchant, moving from the soybean harvest to the other deadlier one. Both showed a fine profit, though the soybeans had been affected by the storms, while the murders had not. Though one candidate for assassination had drowned before the tribe could get to him, and there was an ongoing dispute about payment. The Kikuta, being more ruthless, was supposed to be more skilled at assassination than the Muto, who were traditionally the most effective spies. These 2 families were the aristocracy of the tribe. The other 3, Kuroda, Kudo, and Imai, worked at more menial and humdrum tasks, being servants, petty thieves, informants, and so on. Because the traditional skills were so valued, there were many marriages between Muto and Kikuta, fewer between them and other families, though the exceptions often threw up geniuses like the assassin Shintaro. After dealing with the accounts, Kikuta Gosaburo would give me lessons in genealogy, explaining the intricate relationships of the tribe that spread like an autumn spider's web across the 3 countries, into the north and beyond. He was a fat man, with a double chin, like a woman's, and a smooth, plump face, deceptively gentle-looking. The smell of fermentation clung to his clothes and skin. If he was in a good mood, he would call for wine and move from genealogy into history, the tribe history of my ancestors. Little had changed in hundreds of years. Warlords might rise and fall, clans flourish and disappear, but the trade of the tribe in all the essentials of life went on forever. Except now, Arai wanted to bring about change. All other powerful warlords worked with the tribe. Only Arai wanted to destroy them. Gosaburo's chins wobbled with laughter at the idea. At first I was called on only as a spy, sent to overhear conversations in taverns and tea houses, ordered to climb over walls and roofs at night and listen to men confiding in their sons or their wives. I heard the townspeople's secrets and fears, the Yoshida clan's strategies for spring, the concerns at the castle about Arai's intentions beyond the borders, and about peasant uprisings close to home. I went into the mountain villages, listened to those peasants and identified the ringleaders. One night, Gosaburo clicked his tongue in disapproval at a long overdue account. Not only had no payments been made, more goods had been ordered. The man's name was Furoda, a low-rank warrior who had turned to farming to support his large family and his liking for the good things in life. Beneath his name I read the symbols that indicated the rising level of intimidation already used against him. A barn had been set alight, one of his daughters abducted, a son beaten up, dogs and horses killed. Yet he still sank ever more deeply into the Kikuta's debt. "This could be one for the dog," the merchant said to Akio, who had joined us for a glass of wine. "Hello, Prez. How you doing? Glad you're here. Enjoy your lurk." Like everyone, except Yuki, he used Akio's nickname for me. That's good. Akio took the scroll and ran his eyes over Furoda's sad history. "He's had a lot of leeway. Well, he's a likable fellow. I've known him since we were boys. I can't go on making allowances for him, though." "Uncle, if you don't deal with him, isn't everyone going to expect the same leniency?" Akio said. "That's the trouble. No one's paying on time at the moment. They all think they can get away with it because Furoda has." Gosaburo sighed deeply, his eyes almost disappearing in the folds of his cheeks. "I'm too soft-hearted. That's my problem. My brothers are always telling me." "The dog is soft-hearted," Akio said, "but we're training him not to be. He can take care of Furoda for you. It'll be good for him." "If you kill him, he can never pay his debts," I said. "But everyone else will." Akio spoke as if pointing out an obvious truth to a simpleton. "It's often easier to claim from a dead man than a live one," Gosaburo added apologetically. I did not know this easygoing, pleasure-loving, irresponsible man, and I did not want to kill him. But I did. A few days later, I went at night to his house on the outskirts of town, silenced the dogs, went invisible, and slipped past the guards. The house was well barred, but I waited for him outside the privy. I had been watching the house, and I knew he always rose in the early hours to relieve himself. He was a large, fleshy man who'd long since given up any training, and who had handed over the heavy work on the land to his sons. He'd grown soft. He died with hardly a sound. When I untwisted the garrote, rain had started to fall. The tiles of the walls were slippery. The night was at its darkest. The rain could almost be sleet. I returned to the Kikuta house, silenced by the darkness and the cold, as if they had crept inside me and left a shadow on my soul. Furoda's sons paid his debts, and Gosaburo was pleased with me. I let no one see how much the murder had disturbed me, but the next one was worse. It was on the orders of the Yoshida family. Determined to put a stop to the unrest among the villagers before winter, they put in a request for the leader to be eradicated. Spinny. I knew the man, knew his secret fields, though I had not yet revealed them to anyone. Now I told Gosaburo and Akio where he could be found alone every evening, and they sent me to meet him there. He had rice and sweet potatoes concealed in a small cave, cut into the side of the mountain and covered with stones and brushwood. He was working on the banks of the field when I came silently up the slope. I had misjudged him. He was stronger than I thought, and he fought back with his hoe. As we struggled together, my hood slipped back, and he saw my face. Recognition came into his eyes, mixed with a sort of horror. In that moment, I used the second self, came behind him, and cut his throat. But I'd heard him call out to my image, "Lord Shigeru!" I was covered with blood, his and mine, and dizzy from the blow I'd not quite avoided. The hoe had glanced against my scalp, and the scrape was bleeding freely. His words disturbed me deeply. Had he been calling to Shigeru's spirit for help, or had he seen my likeness and mistaken me for him? I wanted to question him, but his eyes stared blankly up at the twilight sky. He was gone beyond speech forever. I went invisible, and stayed so until I was nearly back at the Kakuta house, the longest period I had ever used it for. Avalon, hello. I would have stayed like that forever if I could. I could not forget the man's last words, and then I remembered what Shigeru had said so long ago in Hagi. I have never killed an unarmed man, nor killed for pleasure. The clan lords were highly satisfied. The man's death had taken the heart out of the unrest. The villagers promptly became docile and obedient. Many of them would die of starvation before the end of winter. It was an excellent result, Gosaburo said. But I began to dream of Shigeru every night. He entered the room and stood before me as if he had just come out of the river, blood and water streaming from him, saying nothing, his eyes fixed on me, as if he were waiting for me, the same way he had waited with the patience of the heron for me to speak again. Slowly it began to dawn on me that I could not bear the life I was living, but I did not know how to escape it. I had made a bargain with the Kakuta that I was now finding impossible to keep. I'd made the bargain in the heat of passion, not expecting to live beyond that night, and with no understanding of my own self. I'd thought the Kakuta master, who seemed to know me, would help me resolve the deep divisions and contradictions of my nature, but he had sent me away to Matsue with Akio, where my life with the tribe might be teaching me how to hide these contradictions, but was doing nothing to solve them. They were merely being driven deeper inside me. My black mood worsened when Yuki went away. She said nothing to me about it, just vanished one day. In the morning I heard her voice and her tread while we were at training. I heard her go to the front door and leave without bidding anyone farewell. I listened all day for her to return, but she did not come back. I tried asking casually where she was. The replies were evasive, and I did not want to question Akio or Gosaburo directly. I missed her deeply, but was also relieved that I no longer had to face the question of whether to sleep with her or not. Every day since she had told me about Keide, I'd resolved I would not, and every night I did. 2 days later, while I was thinking about her during the meditation period at the end of the morning exercises, I heard one of the servants come to the door and call softly to Akio. He opened his eyes slowly, and with the air of calm composure that he always assumed after meditating, and which I was convinced was only assumed, he rose and went to the door. "The master is here," the girl said. "He is waiting for you." "Hey, dog," Akio called to me. The others sat without moving a muscle, without looking up as I stood. Akio jerked his head, and I followed him to the main room of the house, where Kikuta Kotaro was drinking tea with Gosaburo. We entered the room and bowed to the floor before him. "Sit up," he said, and studied me for a few moments. Then he addressed Akio. "Have there been any problems?" "Not really," Akio said, implying there had been quite a few. "What about attitude? You have no complaints?" Akio shook his head slowly. "Yet before you left Yamagata, I felt that Kotaro was letting me know he knew everything about me." "It was dealt with," Akio replied briefly. "He's been quite useful to me," Gosaburo put in. "I'm glad to hear it," Kotaro said dryly. His brother got to his feet and excused himself. The pressures of business, the need to be in the shop. When he had left, the master said, "I spoke to Yuki last night." "Where is she?" "That doesn't matter, but she told me something that disturbs me a little. We did not know that Shigeru went to Mino expressly to find you. He let Muto Kenji believe the encounter happened by chance." He paused, but I said nothing. I remembered the day Yuki had found this out while she was cutting my hair. She had thought it important information, important enough to pass on to the master. No doubt she had told him everything else about me. "It makes me suspect Shigeru had a greater knowledge of the tribe than we realized," Kotaro said. "Is that true?" "It's true that he knew who I was," I replied. "He had been friends with the Muto master for many years. That's all I know of his relationship with the tribe." "He never spoke to you of anything more?" "No." I was lying. In fact, Shigeru had told me more, the night we had talked in Suwano, that he had made it his business to find out about the tribe, and that he probably knew more about them than any other outsider. I had never shared this information with Kenji, and I saw no reason to pass it on to Kotaro. Shigeru was dead. I was now bound to the tribe, but I was not going to betray his secrets. I tried to make my voice and face guileless and said, "Yuki asked me the same thing. What does it matter now?" "We thought we knew Shigeru, knew his life," Kotaro answered. "He keeps surprising us, even after his death. He kept things hidden, even from Kenji. The affair with Maruyama Naomi, for example. What else was he hiding?" I shrugged slightly. I thought of Shigeru, nicknamed the farmer, with his open-hearted smile, his seeming frankness and simplicity. Everyone had misjudged him, especially the tribe. He had been so much more than any of them had suspected. Is it possible that he kept records of what he knew about the tribe? "He kept many records of all sorts of things," I said, sounding puzzled. "The seasons, his farming experiments, the land and crops, his retainers. Ichiro, his former teacher, helped him with them, but he often wrote himself." I could see him, writing late into the night, the lamp flickering, the cold penetrating, his face alert and intelligent, quite different from its usual bland expression. The journeys he made, did you go with him? No, apart from our flight from Mino. How often did he travel? I'm not sure. While I was in Hagi, he did not leave the city. Kotaro grunted. Silence crept into the room. I could barely hear the others breathing. From beyond came the noon sounds of shop and house, the click of the abacus, the voices of customers, peddlers crying in the street outside. The wind was rising, whistling under the eaves, shaking the screens. Already its breath held the hint of snow. The master spoke, finally. It seems most likely that he did keep records, in which case they must be recovered. If they should fall into Arai's hands at this moment, it would be a disaster. You will have to go to Hagi, find out if the records exist, and bring them back here. I could hardly believe it. I had thought I would never go there again. Now I was to be sent back to the house I loved so much. It's a matter of the nightingale floor, Kotaro said. I believe Shigeru had one built around his house, and you mastered it. It seemed I was back there. I felt the heavy night air of the 6th month, saw myself run as silently as a ghost, heard Shigeru's voice. Can you do it again? I tried to keep my face under control, but I felt a flicker in the smile muscles. You must leave at once, Kotaro went on. You have to get there and back before the snows begin. It's nearly the end of the year. By the middle of the 1st month, both Hagi and Matsue will be closed by snow. He had not sounded angry before, but now I realize he was, profoundly. Perhaps he had sensed my smile. Why did you never tell anyone this? He demanded. Why did you keep it from Kenji? I felt my own anger rise in response. Lord Shigeru did so, and I followed his lead. My first allegiance was to him. I would never have revealed something he wanted kept secret. I was one of the Otori then, after all. And still thinks he is, Akio put in. Dick. It's a question of loyalties. It always will be with him. He added under his breath. A dog only knows one master. I turned my gaze on him, willing him to look at me so I could shut him up, put him to sleep. But after one swift, contemptuous glance, he stared at the floor again. Well, that will be proved one way or the other, Kotaro replied. I think this mission will test your loyalties to the full. If this Ichiro knows of the existence and contents of the records, he'll have to be removed, of course. I bowed, without saying anything, wondering if my heart had been hardened to the extent where I could kill Ichiro, the old man who had been Shigeru's teacher, and then mine. I'd thought I wanted to often enough when he was chastising me and forcing me to learn. But he was one of the Otori, one of Shigeru's household. I was bound to him by duty and loyalty as well as by my own grudging respect and, I realized now, affection. At the same time I was exploring the master's anger, feeling its taste in my mouth. It had a quality to it that was like Akio's, more or less permanent state of rage against me. as if they both hated and feared me. The Kikuta were delighted to discover Isamu had left a son, Kenji's wife had said. If they were so delighted, why were they so angry with me? But hadn't she also said we all were? And then Yuki had told me of her mother's old feelings for Shintaro. Could his death really have delighted her? She had seemed at that moment like a garrulous old woman, and I had taken her words at face value. But moments later she'd allowed me a glimpse of her skills. She'd been flattering me, stroking my vanity in the same way as she'd stroked my temples with her phantom hands. The reaction of the Kikuta to my sudden appearance was darker and more complex than they would have me believe. Maybe they were delighted with my skills, but there was also something about me that alarmed them, and I still did not understand what it was. The anger that should have cowed me into obedience instead made me more stubborn, indeed struck fire on that stubbornness and gave me energy. I felt it coiled inside me as I wondered at the fate that was sending me back to Hagi. We are entering a dangerous time, the master said, studying me as if he could read my thoughts. The Muto house in Yamagata was searched and ransacked. Someone suspected you had been there. However, Arai has returned to Inuyama now, and Hagi is a long way from there. It's a risk for you to return, but the risk of records coming into anyone else's hands is far greater. What if they aren't in Lord Shigeru's house? They could be hidden anywhere. Presumably Ichiro will know. Question him and bring them back from wherever they are. Am I to leave immediately? The sooner the better. As an actor, no actors travel at this time of year, Akio said scornfully. Besides, we will go alone. I'd been offering a silent prayer that he would not be coming with me. The master said, Akio will accompany you. His grandfather, your grandfather, has died, and you are returning to Hagi for the memorial service. I would prefer not to travel with Akio, I said. Akio drew his breath in sharply. Kotaro said, There are no preferences for you, only obedience. I felt the stubbornness spark and looked directly at him. He was staring into my eyes as he had once before. He had put me to sleep immediately then. But this time I could meet his gaze without giving in to it. There was something behind his eyes that made him flinch slightly from me. I searched his look, and the suspicion leapt into my mind. This is the man who killed my father. I felt a moment of terror at what I was doing. Then my own gaze steadied and held. My teeth bared, though I was far from smiling. I saw the master's look of astonishment and saw his vision cloud. Then Akio was on his feet, striking me in the face, almost knocking me to the ground. How dare you do that to the master? Have you no respect, you scum? Kotaro said, Sit down, Akio. My eyes snapped back to him, but he was not looking at me. I am sorry, master, I said softly. Forgive me. We both knew my apology was hollow. He stood swiftly and covered the moment with anger. Ever since we located you, we have been trying to protect you from yourself, He did not raise his voice, but there was no mistaking his fury. Not only for your own sake, of course. You know what your talents are and how useful they could be to us. But your upbringing, your mixed blood, your own character, all work against you. I thought training here would help, but we don't have time to continue it. Akio will go with you to Hagi, and you will continue to obey him in all things. He is far more experienced than you. He knows where the safe houses are, whom to contact, and who can be trusted. He paused, while I bowed in acceptance, and then went on. Hello, Alucard. How you doing? I'm fine, thank you. You and I made a bargain at Inuyama. You chose to disobey my orders then and return to the castle. The results of Aida's death have not been good for us. We were far better off under him than under Arai. Apart from our own laws of obedience that any child learns before they turn 7, your life is already forfeit to me by your own promise. No worries, Alucard, have a good look. I did not reply. I felt he was close to giving up on me, that his patience with me, the understanding of my nature that had calmed and soothed me, was running dry, as was my trust in him. The terrible suspicion lay in my mind. Once it had arisen, there was no eradicating it. My father had died at the hands of the tribe, maybe even killed by Kotaro himself, because he had tried to leave them. Later I would realize that this explained many things about the Kikuta's dealings with me, their insistence on my obedience, their ambivalent attitude to my skills, their contempt for my loyalties to Shigeru. But at that time it only increased my depression. Akio hated me. I had insulted and offended the Kikuta master. Yuki had left me. Keide was probably dead. I did not want to go on with the list. Damn, good bot. I gazed with unseeing eyes at the floor, while Kikuta and Akio discussed details of the journey. We left the following morning. There were many travellers on the road, taking advantage of the last weeks before the snow fell, going home for the New Year festival. We mingled with them, 2 brothers returning to our hometown for a funeral. It was no hardship to pretend to be overcome by grief. It seemed to have become my natural state. The only thing that lightened the blackness that enveloped me was the thought of seeing the house in Hagi, and hearing for one last time its winter song. My training partner, Hajime, travelled with us for the first day. He was on his way to join a wrestling stable for the winter to prepare for the spring tournaments. We stayed that night with the wrestlers and ate the evening meal with them. They consumed huge stews of vegetables and chicken, a meat they considered lucky because the chicken's hands never touched the ground. With noodles made of rice and buckwheat, more for each one than most families would eat in a week. Hajime, with his large bulk and calm face, resembled them already. He had been connected with this stable, which was run by the Kikuta, since he was a child, and the wrestlers treated him with teasing affection. Hello, Acid. Hello, friends. The possum goes, ah. Welcome in. I'm just reading about ninjas and
you are my
feelings.
most
Ninjas and feelings. Thank you, I said. Aw, thank you. Hello, Lost. How you're doing? Wow. My bot just banned a spammer before. Seribot. Very good bot. I'm very impressed so far. Acid, I hope you had a lovely rest of stream. I I like lurking in your Mass Effect streams. Very good bot. Yeah, it's a very good bot. I very much enjoyed the Citadel expansion pack. It was nice seeing all the characters enjoying themselves. I think you're finishing off tomorrow? Okay. I'll have to try and be there. I'm not sure what I'm up to tomorrow. I might be dumping more steel from Granddad's shed. We'll see how we go. What about Tali, though? I haven't played Mass Effect 3, so if you're talking about... Anyway, steel dumpy. Is it? Right, so friends, if you want to stick around for a story, I will continue reading. Yes. So, young Takeo, basically an orphan who is torn between two loyalties: loyalty to his old dead master, from the clan, the Otori clan, and loyalty to the tribe, who are his family. The tribe being this world's version of ninjas. So he's been with the tribe in a sort of a tribe village, learning about tribey things, and they've been like, he's had to assassinate a couple of people, and he's not really into it. But now he's being sent back to the city of Hagi, where his old master Shigeru Otori lived. Otori Shigeru, yeah. And he's supposed to find out what Shigeru knew of the tribe and take out anyone who knew any details about it. So yes, they're on the road. No worries, Acid. Thank you for liking. Okay, so before the meal, we bathed with them in the vast, steamy bathhouse built across a scalding, sulphurous spring. Masseurs and trainers mingled among them, rubbing and scrubbing the massive limbs and torsos. It was like being among a race of giants. They all knew Akio, of course, and treated him with ironic deference, because he was the boss's family, mixed with kindly scorn because he was not a wrestler. Nothing was said about me, and nobody paid me any attention. They were absorbed in their own world. I, obviously, had only the slightest connection to it, and therefore was of no interest to them. So I said nothing, but listened. I overheard plans for the spring tournament, the hopes and desires of the wrestlers, the jokes whispered by the masseurs, the propositions made, spurned, or accepted. And much later, when Akio had ordered me to bed, and I was already lying on a mat in the communal hall, I heard him and Hajime in the room below. They had decided to sit up for a while and drink together before they parted the next day. I tuned out the snores of the wrestlers and concentrated on the voices below. I could hear them clearly through the floor. Takeo has special inherited skills from his tribe ancestry. Ninja skills. It always amazed me that Akio seemed to forget how acute my hearing was. I supposed he did not want to acknowledge my gifts, and this made him underestimate me. At first I thought it was a weakness in him, almost the only one. Later, it occurred to me that there were some things he might have wanted me to hear. The conversation was commonplace. The training Hajime would undergo, the friends they'd caught up with, until the wine began to loosen their tongues. "You'll go to Yamagata, presumably?" Hajime asked. "Probably not. The Muto master is still in the mountains, and the house is empty." "I assumed Yuki had gone back to her family." "No, she's gone to the Kikuta village north of Matsue. She'll stay there until the child is born." "The child?" Hajime sounded as dumbfounded as I was. There was a long silence. I heard Akio drink and swallow. When he spoke again, his voice was much quieter. "She is carrying the dog's child." Hajime hissed through his teeth. "Sorry, cousin, I don't want to upset you, but was that part of the plan?" "Why should it not have been?" "I always thought that you and she, that you would marry eventually." "We have been promised to each other since we were children," Akio said. "We may still marry. The masters wanted her to sleep with him, to keep him quiet, to distract him, to get a child if possible. If he felt pain, he was not showing it. I was to pretend suspicion and jealousy," he said flatly. "If the dog knew he was being manipulated, he might never have gone with her. Well, I did not have to pretend it. I did not realize she would enjoy it so much. I could not believe how she was with him, seeking him out day and night like a bitch in heat." His voice broke off. "We don't like him." I heard him gulp down a cup of wine, and heard the clink and gurgle of the flask as more was poured. "Good must have come of it, though," Hajime suggested, his voice regaining some of its cheerfulness. "The child will inherit a rare combination of talents." "So the Kikuta master thinks. And this child will be with us from birth. It will be raised properly, with none of the dog's deficiencies." "It's astonishing news," Hajime said. "No wonder you've been preoccupied." "Most of the time I'm thinking about how I'll kill him," Akio confessed, drinking deeply again. "You've been ordered to?" Hajime said bleakly. "It all depends on what happens in Hagi. You might say he's on his last chance." "Does he know that he's being tested?" "If he doesn't, he'll soon find out," Akio said. After another long pause, he said, "If the Kikuta had known of his existence, they would have claimed him as a child and brought him up. But he was ruined first by his upbringing, and then by his association with the Otori. His father died before he was born. Do you know who killed him?" "They drew lots," Akio whispered. "No one knows who actually did it, but it was decided by the whole family. The master told me this in Inuyama." "Sad," Hajime murmured. "So much talent wasted." "It comes from mixing the blood," Akio said. "It's true that it sometimes throws up rare talents, but they seem to come with stupidity. And the only cure for stupidity is death." Shortly afterwards, they came to bed. I lay still, feigning sleep until daybreak, my mind gnawing uselessly at the news. I was sure that no matter what I did, or failed to do in Hagi, Akio would seize on any excuse to kill me there. As we bade farewell to Hajime the next morning, he would not look me in the eye. His voice held a false cheerfulness, and he stared after us, his expression glum. I imagine he thought he would never see me again. We travelled for 3 days, barely speaking to each other, until we came to the barrier that marked the beginning of the Otori lands. It presented no problem to us, Akio having been supplied with the necessary tablets of identification. He made all the decisions on our journey, where we should eat, where we should stop for the night, which road we should take. I followed passively. I knew he would not kill me before we got to Hagi. He needed me to get into Shigeru's house, across the Nightingale floor. After a while, I began to feel a sort of regret that we weren't good friends travelling together. It seemed a waste of a journey. I longed for a companion, someone like Makoto, or my old friend from Hagi, Fumio, with whom I could talk on the road and share the confusion of my thoughts. Once we were in Otori land, I expected the countryside to look as prosperous as it had when I had first travelled through it with Shigeru, but everywhere bore signs of the ravages of the storms and the famine that followed them. Many villages seemed to be deserted. Damaged houses stood unrepaired. Starving people begged at the side of the road. I overheard snatches of conversation, how the Otori lords were now demanding 60% of the rice harvest, instead of the 40% they had taken previously, to pay for the army they were raising to fight Arai, and how men might as well kill themselves and their children rather than starve slowly to death when winter came. Earlier in the year, we might have made the journey more swiftly by boat, but the winter gales were already lashing the coast, driving foaming grey waves onto the black shore. The fishermen's boats were moored in such shelter as they could find, or pulled high onto the shingle, lived in by families until spring. Throughout the winter, the fishing families burned fires to get salt from the seawater. Once or twice we stopped to warm ourselves and eat with them, Akio paying them a few small coins. The food was meagre: salt fish, soup made from kelp, sea urchins, and small shellfish. One man begged us to buy his daughter, take her with us to Hagi, and use her ourselves or sell her to a brothel. She could not have been more than 13 years old, barely into womanhood. She was not pretty, but I can still recall her face, her eyes both frightened and pleading, her tears, the look of relief when Akio politely declined, the despair in her father's attitude as he turned away. That night, Akio grumbled about the cold, regretting his decision. "She'd have kept me warm," he said more than once. I thought of her, sleeping next to her mother, faced with the choice between starvation and what would have been no more than slavery. I thought about Furoda's family, turned out of their shabby, comfortable house, and I thought of the man I'd killed in his secret field, and the village that would die because of me. These things did not bother anyone else. It was the way the world was, but they haunted me. And of course, as I did every night, I took out the thoughts that had lain with me all day and examined them. Yuki was carrying my child. It was to be raised by the tribe. I would probably never even set eyes on it. The Kikuta had killed my father because he had broken the rules of the tribe, and they would not hesitate to kill me. I made no decisions and came to no conclusions. I simply lay awake for long hours of the night, holding the thoughts as I would hold black pebbles in my hand and looking at them. The mountains fell directly to the sea around Hagi, and we had to turn inland and climb steeply before we crossed the last pass and began the descent towards the town. My heart was full of emotion, though I said nothing and gave nothing away. The town lay as it always had in the cradle of the bay, encircled by its twin rivers and the sea. It was late afternoon, on the day of the winter solstice, and a pale sun was struggling through the grey clouds. The trees were bare, fallen leaves thick underfoot. Smoke from the burning of the last rice stalks spread a blue haze that hung above the rivers, level with the stone bridge. Preparations were already being made for the New Year festival. Sacred ropes of straw hung everywhere, and dark-leaved pine trees had been placed by doorways. The shrines were filling with visitors. The river was swollen with the tide that was just past the turn and ebbing. It sang its wild song to me, and beneath its churning waters I seemed to hear the voice of the stonemason, walled up inside his creation, carrying on his endless conversation with the river. A heron rose from the shallows at our approach. When we crossed the bridge, I read again the inscription that Shigeru had read to me. The Otori clan welcomes the just and the loyal. Let the unjust and the disloyal beware. Unjust and disloyal. Hello, fascinating fangirl. How are you? Thank you for the raid. Oh, hello, friendos. Welcome in. Hello, Andrew Radio. Hello, Smushy Neko. Speedy Rooster. So fast. I hope you had a nice stream. I always like lurking in Fangirl stream, because Fangirl has a nice voice. Here for the ASMR vibes. Oh, very good. Yes. What did you get up to? Was it dancing or was it gaming? Yes, welcome in. I'm just reading Grass for His Pillow, which is a story about ninja and samurai and love and feelings, lots of emotions, so many emotions. Power Wash Simulator, which I call Yip Yap Session. I've got the base game, but not the expansions. The problem was, when I played Power Wash Simulator, I started falling asleep because it was so relaxing. So yes, welcome on in. We are reading about young Takeo, who is currently travelling home to Hagi. Oh, thank you for the pets. So relaxing until you get to 99%. You can't find the last dirt spot. That did frustrate me. And also a lot of the time, you're like spraying something and you're just about to finish it yourself, and then it'll go ding and all the dirt will disappear, and you're just like, I wanted to finish that bit myself. But yeah, it's a very unique game, and it's great for relaxing sessions, and also for multiplayer too. If you, I remember playing multiplayer. Another streamer Ali Stevens did like a little like a Lara Croft one, and yeah, a few streamers we like joined in and cleaned Lara Croft's mansion. It's like, yeah, done here, and the dirt puffs away. Yeah, exactly. It's like, that was the whole point of me going slow, because I wanted to clean that bit. Right, so Takeo was an orphan, taken in by the Otori clan, by Otori Shigeru, and Shigeru has since died, and he was claimed by his family, the tribe, and the tribe are basically the ninjas in this world. You'll lurk? Okay, have a good look. Yes, so the tribe are basically the ninjas in this world, and now he's being sent back to the Otori city, where he spent time with Shigeru, and he has to find out if Shigeru made any records about the tribe, and he has to end anyone who may know this information. So he's conflicted. So I'll just read that bit again. When we crossed the bridge, I read again the inscription that Shigeru had read to me. The Otori clan welcomes the just and the loyal. Let the unjust and the disloyal beware. Unjust and disloyal. I was both. Disloyal to Shigeru, who had entrusted his lands to me, and unjust as the tribe are. Unjust and pitiless. I walked through the streets, head down and eyes lowered, changing the set of my features in the way Kenji had taught me. I did not think anyone would recognize me. I had grown a little and had become both leaner and more muscular during the past months. My hair was cut short, my clothes were those of an artisan. My body language, my speech, my gait, everything about me was changed since the days when I'd walked through these streets as a young lord of the Otori clan. We went to a brewery on the edge of town. I'd walked by it dozens of times in the past, knowing nothing of its real trade. But, I thought, Shigeru would have known. The idea pleased me that he had kept track of the tribe's activities, had known things that they were ignorant of, had known of my existence. The place was busy with preparations for the winter's work. Huge amounts of wood were being gathered to heat the vats, and the air was thick with the smell of fermenting rice. We were met by a small, distracted man who resembled Kenji. He was from the Muto family. Yuzuru was his given name. Yuzuru. Lots of U's in that name. He had not been expecting visitors so late in the year, and my presence, and what we told him of our mission, unnerved him. He took us hastily inside to another concealed room. "These are terrible times," he said. "The Otori are certain to start preparing for war with Arai in the spring. It's only winter that protects us now." "You've heard of Arai's campaign against the tribe?" "Everyone's talking about it," Yuzuru replied. "We've been told we should support the Otori against him as much as we can for that reason." He shot a look at me and said resentfully, "Things were much better under Aida, and surely it's a grave mistake to bring him here, if anyone should recognize him." "We'll be gone tomorrow," Akira replied. "He has just to retrieve something from his former home." "From Lord Shigeru's? It's madness. He'll be caught." "I don't think so. He's quite talented." I thought I heard mockery beneath the compliment, and took it as one more indication that he meant to kill me. Yuzuru stuck out his bottom lip. "Even monkeys fall from trees. What can be so important?" We think Otori might have kept extensive records on the tribe's affairs. "Shigeru? The farmer? Impossible." Akio's eyes hardened. "Why do you think that?" "Everyone knows. Well, Shigeru was a good man. Everyone loved him. His death was a terrible tragedy, but he died because he was—" Yuzuru blinked furiously and looked apologetically at me. "He was too trusting. Innocent, almost. He was never a conspirator. He knew nothing about the tribe." "We have reasons to think otherwise," Akio said. "We'll know who's right before tomorrow's dawn." "You're going there tonight?" "We must be back in Matsue before the snows come." "Well, they'll be early this year, possibly before the year's end." Yuzuru sounded relieved to be talking about something as mundane as the weather. "All the signs are for a long, hard winter, and if spring's going to bring war, I wish it may never come." It was already freezing within the small dark room, the third such that I had been concealed in. Yuzuru himself brought us food, tea, already cooling by the time we tasted it. And wine. Akio drank the wine, but I did not, feeling I needed my senses to remain acute. We sat without speaking as night fell. The brewery quietened around us, though its smell did not diminish. I listened to the sounds of the town, each one so familiar to me I felt I could pinpoint the exact street, the exact house it came from. The familiarity relaxed me, and my depression began to lift a little. The bell sounded from Daishoin, the nearest temple, for the evening prayers. I could picture the weathered building, the deep green darkness of its grove, the stone lanterns that marked the graves of the Otori lords and their retainers. I fell into a sort of waking dream in which I was walking among them. Then Shigeru came to me again, as if from out of a white mist, dripping with blood and water, his eyes burning black, holding an unmistakable message for me. I snapped awake, shivering with cold. Akio said, "Drink some wine. It'll steady your nerves." I shook my head, stood, and went through the limbering exercises the tribe use until I was warm. Then I sat in meditation, trying to retain the heat, focusing my mind on the night's work, drawing together all my powers, knowing now how to do at will what I had once done by instinct. From Daishoin, the bell sounded. Midnight. I heard Yuzuru approaching, and the door slid open. He beckoned to us and led us through the house to the outer gates. Here he alerted the guards, and we went over to the wall. One dog barked briefly, but was silenced with a cuff. "No, don't hit the dog." It was pitch dark, the air icy, a raw wind blowing off the sea. On such a foul night no one was on the streets. We went silently to the riverbank and walked southeast towards the place where the rivers joined. The fish weir, where I had often crossed to the other side, lay exposed by the low tide. Just beyond it was Shigeru's house. On the near bank, boats were moored. We used to cross the river in them to his lands on the opposite side, the rice fields and farms, where he tried to teach me about agriculture and irrigation, crops and coppices. And boats had brought the wood for the tea room and the nightingale floor, listing low in the water with the sweet-smelling planks, fresh cut from the forests beyond the farms. Tonight it was too dark even to make out the mountain slopes where the trees had grown. We crouched by the side of the narrow road and looked at the house. There were no lights visible, just the dim glow of a brazier from the guardroom at the gate. I could hear men and dogs breathing deeply in sleep. The thought crossed my mind. They would not have slept so had Shigeru been alive. I was angry on his behalf, not least with myself. Akio whispered, "You know what you have to do?" I nodded. "Go then." We made no other plans. He simply sent me off as if I were a falcon or a hunting dog. I had a fair idea of what his own plan was. When I returned with the records, he would take them, and I would be reported, unfortunately killed by the guards, my body thrown into the river. Hello, B. Hello, B. How goes Task Petal? Also, just quickly before we get into Takeo's night excursion, this is the Zotac I was telling you about, B. It's in it. Put it in an old Super Nintendo case. See? Exhaust. So yeah, there's a little old computer in there from 2012, something like that. It was actually supposed to be a gaming system, like for emulation, but it ended up being a home theater PC for Mum for a while, and then it just got disused. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what I originally made it for. RetroArch, okay. Used to use an EE PC. Oh. That tea is very cold. Okay. Task is fucked. Oh no. Ah, that's how you found Crunchbang. Hello, Forrest. How you're doing? Hope you're well. Yes, that is a good idea. I will turn it into a gaming system. Because it can't play movies and things anymore. The processor is way too old. It doesn't have HEVC capability. It's just too old. Oh, Forrest. I hope your days are under 24 degrees, Forrest. Okay, so Takeo was about to infiltrate. Yeah, nowhere near enough. It'll handle H.264, but not the modern ones. Plus, it's got it's so old. It's got all these security implications. Anyway, I wanted to make a V Rising server with it, but it's just too old. So I'm just looking, chat. Spectre, yeah, and Meltdown. Intel. Under 20 degrees. Oh, very nice. Your summer is like my winter. Actually, I was very pissed off with Intel when Spectre and Meltdown happened, and that's why I went back to AMD. I thought, no, you've been sitting on your laurels for too long, so AMD time. And I don't regret it. Excellent. Where are we? Right, okay, cool. Okay, found it. I had a fair idea of what his own plans were. When I returned with the records, he would take them, and I would be reported, unfortunately killed by the guards, my body thrown into the river. I crossed the street, went invisible, leapt over the wall, and dropped into the garden. Yeah, it's hard to secure CPUs when they're doing predictive stuff. Immediately, the muffled song of the house enveloped me. The sighing of the wind in the trees, the murmur, how could task be? The murmur of the stream, the splash of the waterfall, the surge of the river as the tide began to flow. Sorrow swept over me. What was I doing returning here in the night like a thief? Almost unconsciously, I let my face change, let my Otori look return. The nightingale floor extended around the whole house, but it held no threat to me. Even in the dark, I could still cross it without making it sing. On the further side, I climbed the wall to the window of the upper room, the same route the tribe assassin, Shintaro, had taken over a year ago. So Takeo would be 16 by now. At the top, I listened. The room seemed empty. The shutters were closed against the freezing night air, but they were not bolted, and it was easy to slide them apart enough to creep through. Inside it was barely any warmer, and even darker. The room smelled musty and sour, as if it had been closed for a long time, as if no one sat there any more save ghosts. I could hear the household breathing and recognize the sleep of each one, but I could not place the one I needed to find, Ichiro. I stepped down the narrow staircase, knowing its favourite creaks as I knew my own hands. Once below, I realized the house was not completely dark, as it had appeared from the street. In the furthest room, the one Ichiro favoured, a lamp was burning. I went quietly towards it. The paper screen was closed, but the lamp threw the shadow of the old man onto it. I slid open the door. He raised his head and looked at me without surprise. He smiled sorrowfully and made a slight movement with his hand. "What can I do for you? You know I would do anything to bring you peace, but I am old. I have used the pen more than the sword." "Teacher," I whispered, "it's me, Takeo." I stepped into the room, slid the door closed behind me, and dropped to my knees before him. He gave a shudder as if he had been asleep and just woken, or as if he had been in the world of the dead and been called back by the living. He grabbed my shoulders and pulled me towards him into the lamplight. "Takeo, can it really be you?" He ran his hands over my head, my limbs, as though fearing I were an apparition, tears trickling down his cheeks. Then he embraced me, cradling my head against his shoulder, as if I were his long-lost son. I could feel his thin chest heaving. He pulled back a little and gazed into my face. "I thought you were Shigeru. He often visits me at night. He stands there, in the doorway. I know what he wants, but what can I do?" He wiped the tears away with his sleeve. "You've grown like him. It's quite uncanny. Where have you been all this time? We thought you too must have been murdered, except that every few weeks someone comes to the house looking for you, so we assumed you were still alive." "I was hidden by the tribe," I said, wondering how much he knew of my background. First in Yamagata, for the last 2 months in Matsue. I made a bargain with them. They kidnapped me at Inuyama, but released me to go into the castle and bring Lord Shigeru out. In return, I agreed to enter their service. You may not know that I am bound to them by blood." "Well, I'd assumed it," Ichiro said. "Why else would Muto Kenji have turned up here?" He took my hand and pressed it with emotion. "Everyone knows the story of how you rescued Shigeru and slew Aida in revenge. I don't mind telling you, I always thought he was making a grave mistake adopting you. But you silenced all my misgivings and paid all your debts to him that night." "Not quite all. The Otori lords betrayed him to Aida, and they are still unpunished." "Is that what you have come for? That would bring rest to his spirit?" "No. I was sent by the tribe. They believe Lord Shigeru kept records on them, and they want to retrieve them." Ichiro smiled wryly. "He kept records of many things. I go through them every night." "Oh, damn." "The Otori lords claim your adoption was not legal, and that anyway you are probably dead. Therefore Shigeru has no heirs, and his lands must revert to the castle. I have been looking for more proof, so that you may keep what is yours." His voice became stronger and more urgent. "You must come back, Takeo. Half the clan will support you for what you did in Inuyama. Many suspect that Shigeru's uncles planned his death and are outraged by it." "Hello, Melvi. How are you?" Oh my goodness. "Hello, friends. Welcome in." "What?" Oh, thank you for the raid. I'm just overwhelmed with raids tonight. Yes, welcome in. I'm Salty. I read, I stream every Tuesday and Wednesday. I've been doing a lot of soft reading. Hello, Melvi. Hello, Haku. Oh. I thought no one was going to show up to my stream tonight, to be honest. I was like, when I started, I'm just like, okay, quiet stream tonight. How are you? I'm okay, thank you. What's up? I'm just reading. Like my voice, thank you, fat pigeon in a hat. I like your name. Did Fangirl raid you by chance? I think that's where I came from. Yes, fascinating. Fangirl did raid me. I had a raid from acid.exe, fascinating fangirl, and now Melvi. Thank you, friendo. Yes, I'm reading Grass for His Pillow, as you see in the corner, some there. That's just a little graphic I did up. And yes, we're following the story of Takeo. Your English is bad? Oh, that's okay, Melvi. Look, I have to admit, I like you. I like lurking in your stream. I don't understand a word you say, but I lurk in your stream anyway because your voice is so nice. My voice is like a radio teller. That's a very high compliment. Thank you. I'm just reading to improve my speaking voice. That is why I started reading. And I haven't done anything else on stream for a while. Just mostly reading twice a week. I really need to do more streaming because it seems like ages since I streamed last week. Like last Wednesday was the last time I streamed, and it just feels like a long time. You are learning English little by little. Yes. I have not learnt a foreign language from English. I started learning Japanese in grade 8, but that didn't take because I had no one to talk with. So I think that's the only way you can really learn a language is to use it. I hope you learn English well. Melvi, is your language Spanish or Portuguese? I can't quite remember. So yes, we're reading the story of Takeo, who is, he was an orphan, rescued by Spanish. Very cool. Very cool. He's an orphan rescued by Otori Shigeru of the Otori clan, and he's also a child of a group called the Tribe, who are basically this world's version of ninjas. So his adoptive father Shigeru died, betrayed by a rival lord, and the Tribe have claimed him, and now he has to sneak back into his old house, Shigeru's old house, and find out what Shigeru knew about the Tribe. And now he's talking with his old teacher, Ichiro, who is delighted to see that he's alive. And Ichiro is begging him to take up his Otori inheritance. So he's a little bit conflicted here. You can check Japanese streaming and practice. That's okay. It's been literally years since I've tried. I don't think I would learn Japanese now. I know a few words, but nothing substantial, nothing to hold a conversation. So yes, this is the second book of the Otori series. Grass for his pillow. Okay, so Ichiro, his teacher, don't forget to hydrate. Thank you, I will. Very good. For some reason, my nose was starting to get blocked. Okay. That tea, by the way, is very cold. Alright. You must come back, Takeo. Half the clan will support you for what you did in Inuyama. Many suspect that Shigeru's uncles planned his death and are outraged by it. Come back and finish your revenge. Shigeru's presence was all around us. I expected him at any moment to walk into the room with his energetic step, his open-hearted smile, and the dark eyes that looked so frank yet hid so much. I feel I must, I said slowly. I will have no peace unless I do. But the tribe will certainly try to kill me if I desert them. More than try, they will not rest until they have succeeded. Ichiro took a deep breath. I don't believe I have misjudged you, he said. If I have, you came prepared to kill me anyway. I am old. I am ready to move on, but I would like to see Shigeru's work finished. It's true, he did keep records on the tribe. He believed no one could bring peace to the Middle Country while the tribe was so strong, so he devoted himself to finding out all he could about them, and he wrote it all down. He made sure no one knew what was in his records, not even me. He was extremely secretive, far more than anyone ever realized. He had to be. For 10 years both Aida and his uncles had tried to get rid of him. Can you give them to me? I will not give them back to the tribe, he said. The lamp flickered, suddenly sending a crafty look across his face that I had never seen before. I must get more oil, or we'll be sitting in darkness. Let me wake Chiyo. Better not, I said, even though I would have loved to have seen the old woman who ran the house and treated me like a son. I can't stay. Did you come alone? I shook my head. Kikuta Akio is waiting for me outside. Is he dangerous? He's almost certainly going to try to kill me, especially if I return to him empty-handed. I was wondering what hour it was, what Akio was doing. The house's winter song was all around me. I did not want to leave it. My choices seemed to be narrowing. Ichiro would never hand the records over to the tribe. I would never be able to kill him to get them. I took my knife from my sash, felt its familiar weight in my hand. I should take my own life now. Well, it would be one answer, Ichiro said and sniffed, but not a very satisfactory one. I would then have 2 unquiet ghosts visiting me in the night, and Shigeru's murderers would go unpunished. The lamp spluttered. Ichiro stood. I'll get more oil, he muttered. I listened to him shuffling through the house and thought about Shigeru. How many nights would he have sat until late in this very room? Boxes of scrolls stood around me. As I gazed idly at them, I suddenly remembered with complete clarity the wooden chest that I had carried up the slope as a gift for the abbot on the day we had visited the temple to see the Sesshu paintings. I thought I saw Shigeru smile at me. When Ichiro had returned and fixed the lamp, he said, Anyway, the records aren't here. I know, I said. They are at Terayama. Ichiro grinned. If you want my advice, even though you never took any notice of it in the past, go there. Go now, tonight. I'll give you money for the journey. They'll hide you for the winter, and from there you can plan your revenge on the Otori lords. That's what Shigeru wants. Hey, Shelvin BB. It's what I want too, but I made a bargain with the Kikuta master. I am bound to the tribe now by my word. I think you swore allegiance to the Otori first, Ichiro said. Didn't Shigeru save your life before the tribe had ever even heard of you? I nodded. And you said Akio would kill you? They have already broken faith with you. Can you get past him? Where is he? I left him on the road outside. He could be anywhere now. Well, you can hear him first, can't you? And what about those tricks you used to play on me? Always somewhere else when I thought you were studying? Teacher, I began. I was going to apologize, but he waved me silent. I forgive you everything. It was not my teaching that enabled you to bring Shigeru out of Inuyama. He left the room again and came back with a small string of coins and some rice cakes wrapped in kelp. I had no carrying cloth or box to put them in, and anyway, I was going to need both hands free. I tied the money into my loincloth beneath my clothes and put the rice cakes in my belt. Can you find the way? He said, starting to fuss as he used to in the past over a shrine visit or some other outing. I think so. I'll write you a letter to get you through the barrier. You're a servant of this household. It's what you look like. Making arrangements for my visit to the temple next year. I'll meet you in Terayama when the snows melt. Wait for me there. Shigeru was in alliance with Arai. I don't know how things stand between you, but you should seek Arai's protection. He will be grateful for any information he can use against the tribe. He took up the brush and wrote swiftly. Can you still write? He asked without looking up. Not very skillfully. You'll have all winter to practice. He sealed the letter and stood. By the way, what happened to Chato? It came into my hands. It's being kept for me at Terayama. Time to go back for it. He smiled again and grumbled. Chiyo's going to kill me for not waking her. I slipped the letter inside my clothes, and we embraced. Some strange fate ties you to this house, he said. I believe it is a bond you cannot escape. His voice broke, and I saw he was close to tears again. I know it, I whispered. I will do everything you suggest. I knew I could not give up this house and inheritance. They were mine. I would reclaim them. Everything Ichiro said made perfect sense. I had to escape from the tribe. Shigeru's records would protect me from them and give me bargaining power with Arai. If I could only get to Terayama. ... End of chapter 6.